but I generally use 3 different chord shape inversions. And what I mean by that is, say you're taking chords from the 6th string down. Well, it's kind of this E major shape. If you picture an E major here, right? The open string, if you moved that up and wanted to make an A chord, you still have this E shape, but now your first finger is on what is called the root note, and it makes it an A chord, but you still have this E shape, okay? Carrying on with that same theme, we have an A chord here, right? But what we can do is flatten out our 3rd finger and use our movable capo right here. And now, say if I take it to the 5th fret, it's a D chord, but it's that A shape. Same thing with D, okay? We can take this D shape and move it all over the neck. So if we move this D shape up and play from the G string down, up a whole step, now we're at an E chord. Now the same thing applies to these E shape, you know, what an E minor chord looks like. It's the same thing. So, where's all this going? When you start to see those shapes all over the neck and you're able to access them per given chord that you're playing, the 3 shapes, you have 3 shapes, 3 options to every single chord. And then on top of that, you might know your minor and your major pentatonic scales. When you fuse those things together, you start to get so many variations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down how to play this riff. Then I'm going to show you examples on how to actually play different versions of the song using the different chord inversions. But first, I'm going to show you what I mean, and I'm going to show you each of the chords in this song with the 3 different inversions. So I'll show you 3 different ways how to play it, and then what I'll show you is how to tie those together. So as the chords go by, no matter where you're at in the neck, you have an option to take a different inversion instead of all of our open positions or chords that we might traditionally play and use all the time. So let's get into this song. It's my favorite Hendrix style track ever. I love this style, and it's a huge part of my playing. So let's dive into it. Okay, so I'm obviously going to show you how to play this song, this jam track. And what we're going to do is incorporate different ways that we can play it. So I'll show you the way I played it on the jam track itself, and then I'll show you different ways we can play it. And then after that, we'll get into how to solo over the top of that. Okay, so the chords are A major, and this, I'm going to use all the E shape versions of these chords, okay? Then, if we were going to go to the next chord, which would be an E major, we'd have to do a little traveling. We could go here, or to open position E here. Okay, so we have 2 options. Same chord shape, though. Next, if we kept with this E shape version of all the chords, we would be going to F sharp minor here. And then we'd have to travel to the 10th fret to get to the D chord. Now the next time around the chord progression, it's essentially the same thing, with the exception we switch out a G chord where the D chord was. So it would be... Okay, and at the end of the track I go up to a B minor chord, back to our D chord. Okay, now that's all the E-shaped versions of the chord. We can do the exact same thing with the A-shaped versions of the chord as well. A here, E here, F sharp minor here, D here. Okay, here, here, F sharp minor, and then our G's just up a half step. Okay, now we go back, or sorry, here. Then I can go down to our B minor down here. Okay, Now, those are two of the inversions, right? So we have the E and the A. You would do the same thing for the D. Now our A chord's up here, right? Our E chord's down at the 4th fret. Our F sharp minor is here, and then our D's down here. Okay, now when you're using this shape to find the root note, it's going to be located on the B string, and then you just make this shape major or minor. Now the same thing with each of these chords, right? If we're at the A shape, obviously whatever note is the root note on our A string, like here, right? That's our D. So you find it that way. If you want a D chord, you know that your D note is here, and then your A shape is behind it. Same thing up here. We got our E shape. If I want the G chord, I just find the G note up here. So knowing where the root note is and how to quickly find each one of those different chord inversions all over the neck is really going to help. Now, that being said, how do you connect those, right? Why would I say that to you? The reason I would say that to you is you can do many different things. Now, if we're here, right, we're going to show you all these riffs, all these different things you can do with each chord in a later lesson, but I'll give you a quick example before we start to dive into it, and then that way it'll make more sense what we're doing. So I can go here. Here's my E shape chord of the A chord itself. Now I can either go down here and travel all the way down here from my E, or I can use an E shape and an A shape. So I could go, and then right here underneath my fingers is that A shape of my next chord, which is the E chord. Okay? Or there's my A. My next chord is E again. I can hit the D shape, right? Because my E chord is right there as well. So, right now I'm going to choose the E shape of my F sharp minor chord. Right? Here's the F sharp minor chord, E shape. And so you can start to see, while at least knowing 3 of the inversions per each chord really will open tons and tons of doors for you and really start to make sense. Now, on top of that, if you know what pentatonic scales reside next to the chord you're playing, so right here, I know that right behind me a whole step, all those riffs are because of my 3rd position major pentatonic. So I'll get all of those cool riffs out of that position. Now, what you can do is go through each chord. If you know A major, pentatonic, then when you can go through and you can find out, oh, okay, each one of these pentatonic positions is near each one of these different inversions of the chord. And then that way it makes all these riffs even that much more accessible to you when it comes time to use them in a rhythm context. Then you can take that chordal knowledge and knowing where the shapes are as well and incorporate that into your lead playing, which we're going to do later on with this track.